Yo, what's up, guys? It's the Anime Daddy. I'm back for a One Piece chapter review. Now, we've been blessed by the TCP gods because they released early. It is chapter 1067 called Punk Records, and man, do we get some reveals this chapter. But we start off with the cover page of just Judge and Caesar fighting each other. Like, I guess they're probably going to have a little brawl, but it's going to resolve into some stuff where they'll probably be homies at the end of the day because they're both evil. But let's just get right into it. Shout out TCB. We start off with Bonnie being like, "What happened to your head, Vegapunk?" Like, she remembers him when he had his big head. And he says, "I was as tall as a giant when I met you, Bonnie." So this dude's head was like, it was massive. But he says that he cut it because it was getting too long. And they're like, we're not talking about your hair. But he goes on to say that, like, his head was, he was almost as big as a giant. So I'm not sure how big it is to be a giant, but I know there's categories that Oda has made. But that means he was probably taller than Big Mom and Kaido with his head. Because they're not as big as giants, or almost as big as giants. But I don't really know. We get to hear why his head got so big is because he has the brain fruit, or in Japanese, the nomi. So it says he's getting tongue tied trying to say it because his fucking tongue is so long, but it's called the nomi. Really interesting name, but it's the brain fruit, and it says it allows him to memorize unlimited knowledge, and his brain will grow accordingly in size. So that's why his head's so fucking huge. But he's like, having unlimited data is amazing for a genius like me. So he was already a genius before he ate the fruit. We're not sure when he ate the fruit, but he was already a genius before it. 22 years ago for sure, because that's when we saw him in the flashback. We get to see, he says, "I have the biggest brain in the world," and it continues to grow. I don't know why he's sort of happy. But Luffy's like, "Where'd you put it?" And Chopper's sort of lit because he's like, "Yo, you know all this medical knowledge, don't you?" And Vegapunk's like, "Yeah, of course I do. I'm Vegapunk." But Luffy's like, "Doesn't that mean you're dumb now because you don't have a brain? Like, you cut it out?" And of course, Luffy, he's just stating it blunt. And Vegapunk's like, "Don't write off a genius." And he says, this apple is an antenna. So we find the reason from, like, why he has the apple on his head. It was really weird and confusing before, but now we know the reason. It's an antenna that connects to Punk Records, where his brain is. He says it's under the giant egg, which I'm not sure if that means it's underneath that, I don't know, the city or like that forest up there that's underneath the words Punk Record, or if it's like in the egg on top. I'm not sure. He says it's in there. His brain is somewhere there. And it's like, there's no harm to me because this thing picks up my brainwaves. And it's pretty cool. And we go on to like get the full-on reveals of like Vegapunk, like they're clones of him, and they are all different facets of his personality. He says if you put them all together, then that's basically me. That was me before. But he says that they all work in their own key fields of study, and that because they all work, like, all getting different knowledge, completely different things, when he does get the knowledge back from everybody, because he says that all the Vegapunks connect into Punk Records once a day to, like, dock their knowledge and store in their memories and stuff. He says the information is crazy because all this like stuff that they learn each, because they're all doing different stuff. Like Edison's probably cooking up like ideas, and like Pythagoras, he's dealing with the data. Lilith, she's just being evil, I guess, and Atlas, she just like gets out the rage. But they all like specialize in key fields of study, he says. So they all do, I guess, do some stuff. But this like stuff is too confusing. Luffy has no clue what's going on. Of course, if you ask him about this stuff, he don't know. But Jinbei's like, "So you all share the same brain? Like that is really hard for me to wrap my brain around him." But he goes into an easier explanation about like, just think of it as it's like a library where like we all can just grab these books off the shelf and stuff. Like everybody I connect to can just get all the memories and stuff out of my head. He says if I can connect everybody in the world to my brain, like all of humanity would have access to my knowledge. And then he goes into this big like like sort of ruler of the world sort of speech. I don't know. He says like if the whole population of the world could update into Punk Records like my 6 other Vegapunk clones do, then I could get so much knowledge at once from, you know, everybody at once. And humanity could share one mind. This is giving me some Collective Conscious vibes from a Metal Gear Rising. We're getting a lot of panel, like, space for Chopper. I mean, obviously he's like the mascot and, you know, we need to get the cuteness in, but is he gonna, like, get some extra knowledge from Vegapunk or something? Because he's getting a lot of, like, stuff where he's asking Vegapunk about medical knowledge, but he jumps off and flies away, and I think it's funny as fuck. But Jinbei, the realist out of everybody, he's like, if you let everybody share, you know, their conflicting ideologies and biases, wouldn't that be troublesome, like, in your brain? And Vegapunk's like, oh, well, Jinbei, that's a good question, but science would never move forward if we thought about formalities. Like, who cares? So after that big, like, lore dump of just how Vegapunk's brain works and how the clones work and stuff, we see Bonnie. She's pulling out the lightsaber, and she says, like, you shrug off these sacrifices in the name of progress. Like, you turn my dad into this weapon, this mindless cyborg. And Vegapunk's like, he's scared, like, as hell right now. He's like, stop it, that beam is defective, Bonnie. Like, stop. And we get to see, like, why this beam is defective, obviously, but she's like, give it a rest. I tested this earlier, it works. As we see, everything in this junkyard is, like, broken or defective, but it's been shown that everything works. But Bonnie's like, don't think about saying no. Like, I want you to turn my dad back to normal. Jinbei says, like, don't be hasty. Killing him would make a lot of enemies right now. And Vegapunk's like, turn it off, Bonnie. That beam attracts a crazy amount of bugs. So we see this horde of insects just flying in, like, at Bonnie. And she's like, what? And I guess, like, she's super scared of bugs, like, deadly afraid of them, because we get to see she, like, passes out. She's, like, foaming at the mouth. So, like, that must be her really big fear. I don't know if it's been stated in the SBS or anything, but Luffy's like, yo, check it out, Bonnie. It's a giant stag beetle. And we know Luffy loves, like, beetles and, like, bugs and stuff, because Oda likes beetles and bugs when he was a kid, and all Japanese people love beetles for some reason. Like, I don't know why. But Chopper's, like, worried for her health and everything. And Vegapunk, he goes on to say, like, it makes sense that Bonnie hates me. Like, I did some pretty bad stuff, but it's ironic that one of my failures saved me. Speaking of which, you guys were at Wano, weren't you? He's like, you wouldn't happen to know of a dragon that appeared there that wasn't Kaido. And Luffy's like, okay, you're talking about Momo. And Vegapunk's like, oh, he must have ate that devil fruit, the defective devil fruit I left at Punka Hazard. It didn't work. And Luffy's like, defective? Like, it didn't, it worked. And Luffy goes on to say, like, it worked really fine. Like, he can spit fire and he's super strong. But Vegapunk's like, it was artificially made. It was synthesized after 20 years of studying Kaido's lineage factor. Like, he says it cost countless resources. And this is really interesting because it took him 20 years to research this after he got Kaido's lineage factor. And he busted the lineage factor, quote unquote busted it. He paused, but he found out how it works and stuff. So it took him 20 years to make this devil fruit. And he says he couldn't get it right, but it's still, like Luffy says, it still works and stuff. And he's really strong. He's the protector of Wano, the guardian deity. And Vegapunk's like, and his color? And Luffy's like, pink. And we get to see that, the reason it's a defective devil fruit is because he's not blue, like Kaido. And he's like ramming his head into the ground. He's like, oh, you see, it's a monumental failure. And he's just a perfectionist. Like, wow. So it's proved right here Vegapunk can replicate devil fruits. He's been able to do it for a while at this point. So the Seraphim Jinbei definitely has a replica of Senior Pink's devil fruit. I'm going to guess each of the Seraphims have replicas of other devil fruits that would suit them good, or well, that the government would be able to get their hands on, because they have collected devil fruits, I'm going to guess, or they've collected lineage factors from devil fruit. But it's insane. Like, we're going to see some more artificial fruits that are paramecias now, because, I mean, that swim fruit that Jinbei had, I don't think Senior Pink's dead. And if he is, that's tragic. I might cry, but I think it's a replica, and that's really interesting. But we're done with that talk. And Luffy's like, what about this robot? You made it, right? And old man Vegapunk's like, nah, that's a legendary Iron Giant, and it attacked Marie-Joie 200 years ago. Only 200 years ago. He reveals that it was built 900 years ago in the Void Century. And wow, okay, so this attacked Marija 200 years ago, but it was made 900 years ago. So was it used 900 years ago? I'm not really sure. But Vegapunk says that the objective of the robot was unknown, but it ran out of power before it could like kill anybody. So the scientists at the time were like absolutely like they were amazed by this technology. Like they had no clue what was going on because this is super futuristic compared to what the world government has put us through at this time. And this was 200 years ago too at that point. So I'm going to guess technology was far more regressed back 200 years ago compared to when it is now 200 years in the future. But he says none of them could tell where it came from or what it was trying to do back at the time. But the world government wanted it destroyed, so the scientists back then, they hid it away because like this is an insanely like it's an insane find for like the scientific community in the One Piece world. They're like, we need this, we need to preserve it. So they preserved it on Egghead, they hid it away, and Vegapunk's like, it was a good job finding this place. Like it's really hard to find. Like the entrance to the place just looks like a wall. Like I guess it's probably a hologram where like it's supposed to be a wall, but you can just walk through it or something like that. But Luffy's like, we just stumbled across it when we were old and senile. And Chopper's like, yeah, we were just plain on lost. Like, they were old people and they didn't know where to go. So they just went here and they found this junkie. Like, it was just luck. But we cut back out and we get to see the Straw Hats or the rest of the crew listening in on this conversation. And Robin, she drops some knowledge. She's like, 200 years ago, wasn't that around the time when the Fishman rights movement started? And I mean, nothing more gets brought up about it, but Frankie's like, so you're saying that robot climbed up the red line? Like, he got up that red line. And Vegapunk says most likely, like, I mean, how else would it have gotten up there unless it flew? But I don't think it could. He goes on to say, Shaka, the good, or the first Vegapunk, #1. I created Vegaforce 1 based on what I learned from this gigantic behemoth of a monster. And he says, but I lack the scientific prowess to replicate its power source, which is like years in front of what we have right now. And that is something, because that's like something to say, because Vegapunk is already 500 years in the future of our regular like timeline. This goes to say that like 900 years ago or 1000 years ago during the Void Century, like their technology was so advanced. It is farther advanced than Vegapunk himself. Nami chips in and says like, at least Luffy and them okay. But like, who's that girl? And they're like, oh yeah, it's Bonnie and all that stuff. But we cut away again, which is I like how long this chapter is, first of all, and how much we cut around to get other perspectives and more just lore drops and dumps. But they're like, I truly did something terrible to Bonnie. Like Vegapunk, he did something bad. Like, I mean, he sort of killed Kuma, basically. I mean, what we know of Kuma, he's basically dead right now. But Luffy says, yeah, you should bow down and beg for her forgiveness, old man. Like, I love the dichotomy of Luffy and Vegapunk. Like, Luffy just yelling at him and saying whatever he wants. But Vegapunk's like, he's like, listen here, young dolt. Like you know anything about it. Because he's about to explain, I need to give her something. I mean, not explain it now, but explain it later, because we sort of cut it away. But he says, I need to give her something. And regardless, I feel like fate brought us here together, or brought you here together to meet me. And he wants Luffy to take him off Egghead, because, I mean, CP0's on the way. And we get to see down here, CP0 is on the way, and they're knocking out some of these fucking, like, robo beasts, and they're, like, poorly trained pets. I'm pretty sure... I feel like that's Lucci saying that, but I don't know. But they're requesting to get onto Egghead because they have orders to kill Vegapunk. And that's why he wants to get off Egghead. So random Cypherpole agent says, like, Bonnie has been spotted here. And Lucci's like, yo, this pest keeps getting in the way. She served her fucking purpose. Let's get her out of here and kill her. So what? I mean, do we know the purpose that she served? I'm not sure, but also caveat: the Kuma, not pacifista, but the Kuma Seraphim has white hair now, like he was supposed to in the first showing, because he's a pacifista. And I also like all the masks. I fucking love Lucci's mask. Kaku's is sort of, it's interesting, but Stussy's is pretty cool too. Either way, we'll stop looking at masks. So Pythagoras says that there is a government ship on the way. He tells Shaka, and they're like, damn, if we get found harboring pirates, we're going to be in trouble. They're like, why does CP0 want to come here? Like, what do they want, and why do they bring Rob Lucci? Like, I think Vegapunk's saying that. Shaka, they're all Vegapunk, but like Lilith is like, we should just hand these guys over, these riffraff over. You know, it'd be funny, right? Because like, you know, Lucci's an assassin, and they would die, and she wants to see people dead, I'm gonna guess. But the Straw Hat's like, yo, Lucci, we gotta face this dude again. Like, they don't really want to fight him again, and they're like, don't let him in. But Sanji's like, I got this, Robin. I'll protect you. You know, from the experience last time we saw Rob Lucci at Enies Lobby. But Vegapunk, awesome little page or panel right here. He says, tell them to hand over the Seraphim and get the fuck out. They cannot dock here. As world government agents, like, they're not going to listen to me, so let's prepare for battle. Like, what? Vegapunk is getting ready to fight, I guess. So, or the Vegapunks are getting ready to fight. Straw Hats are probably going to fight too. But who's fighting, like, Lucci? I know he's probably gotten a power-up sense in Kaku, but, like, Zoro and Brook are away, like, somewhere in the ship. They're chilling somewhere. Who's going to fight them? Is it going to be the other Straw Hats and, like, the Vegapunks teaming up together? Interesting thought. But we cut away to the Kamabaka Kingdom for our last scene of the chapter. And this is really cool, too, because Lindenberg is like, yo, Kuma, we're trying to repair you. Chill. And Dragon, he's getting told that, like, Kuma's acting weird. So we get to see that Kuma is all hooked up. He's getting repaired by Lindenberg. I think that's his name, Lindenberg or Lindbergh. And he's like the mink that has a jetpack. He's cool as fuck. But they're like, what's wrong? Is he being controlled by the Navy right now? Because, like, he's moving around. Because, I mean, he was passive before, I'm pretty sure. He was just sitting. And they're, like, trying to get stuff out of him, information. But he's getting up right now. He's moving on his own. And, like, Kuma, what are you doing? Like, don't move. You're not, like, yourself yet. And this is saying, are they going to make him, like, back to his old self? Like, because I mean, they're literally saying here, unless this is a translation error, and, like, he's literally saying, you are not yourself yet. Like, you're still not yourself. I don't know what else to say. But he falls over. He keeps getting back up and tries to fall over. In the last scene of the chapter, Dragon screaming, like, at the top of his lungs, because Kuma was one of the founding members of the Revolutionary Army. And we get to see right here, the last page, is the three founders, Dragon, Kuma, and Ivankov. And Dragon's like, talk to us, Kuma. Tell us where you're going. What do you want so badly? And Eva is like, stay with us. You're not done fighting. Like, Revolutionary Army is just getting started. And we have break next week. How much you want to bet next chapter we start off not even anywhere near Kamabaka Kingdom in 2 weeks. But either way, big reveals. Lots of lore dump, just stuff getting cleared up too. And we get to see Kuma again in this mystery, which I love how Oda is building this up. Like, this mystery of a character that we've known for so long. Like, oh, like, it's insane. We're finally getting more stuff with Dragon and the Revolutionary Army. This stuff is building up, guys. It's building up. This is probably a really long video, but either way, thank you for watching. Let me know how you liked the chapter. Like, subscribe, and peace.